we're living through this really fundamental shift, aren't we? In mass culture, I mean. And it's been defined for like the last century by the idol, not ancient statues, obviously, but the modern celebrity, the star. Their faces have just dominated our consciousness. They were kind of the secular saints of the 20th century. But now AI comes along with this hyper-realistic fabrication ability, and it forces this huge question: what happens when the visual proof, the evidence that propped up these idols, just evaporates? Does AI actually destroy the human idol?
That really is the core question we're digging into today. We've synthesized quite a lot of material here from psychology, philosophy, media theory. We're trying to explore not just what an idol is, prophet, politician, pop star, whatever, but why we seem to need them so badly, that deep human craving. And crucially, what are the consequences when that visual trust, the thing that basically built modern fame, just falls apart?
It's an amazing historical arc, really. But we can't just jump straight to deepfakes and the future of fame without understanding the ancient impulse first. Why do we even want idols? So let's start there. Let's define that universal need for idolatry itself before we tackle the current crisis facing stardom.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Looking back through the sources on human behavior, it seems pretty clear that this need for an idol, a hero, a symbol, someone to look up to, it's ancient. It feels almost primal, doesn't it? The sources lay out, I think, 6 core reasons, all kind of interwoven, explaining why this role needs filling. So what's the first big one? How do idols defend us?
It really starts inside us with what the sources call psychological anchoring. I mean, think about the world today. It's chaotic, right? Fast, often feels random. An idol may be a spiritual guide, maybe a top athlete. They give you a sort of fixed point, something high up to orient yourself towards. It gives motivation, hope, and it helps shape your identity relative to that ideal.
Right, like an existential compass. And that seems to connect directly to the second point you mentioned, meaning and purpose. We seem hardwired to look for stories, even if we have to kind of project them onto people.
Absolutely. The idol embodies a purpose that feels bigger than just one person. If you see your favorite musician totally dedicated to their art, it somehow gives your enjoyment of it, or maybe your own creative efforts, a deeper meaning. It gives people a kind of narrative structure to aim for, brings a sense of order.
Okay, so there's the individual benefit.
Yeah.
But idols are also massive social tools, right? How do they work for whole groups of people?
That's the third driver, social cohesion. When people share reverence for something, it binds them. Think about millions uniting under a flag or behind a political figure or cheering for the same team. That common focus, that shared aspiration, it strengthens the community. When everyone agrees this person is great, that agreement itself is part of the social glue.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me, the mirror idea. The fourth driver being the projection of the ideal self. We basically plaster the qualities we wish we had, courage, wisdom, whatever, onto the idol. It's strange. Maybe we don't love them for them, but because they're like a perfect mirror reflecting our own potential back at us.
And that projection provides real existential comfort, which is the fifth driver. Life can feel random, overwhelming. Admiring something greater provides a psychological buffer. Idols kind of reduce the noise, the chaos. They act as moral signposts, easing that anxiety about, mortality and feeling insignificant.
And finally, the long game, the sociological role, cultural transmission.
Exactly. Societies hold up certain figures, saints, inventors, activists, basically, to signal to the next generation what virtues really matter. You celebrate someone like Greta Thunberg, you're signaling environmental courage is vital. You celebrate a brilliant scientist, you signal curiosity matters. Idols set the template for what greatness looks like in a particular time and place.
So, okay, the need for meaning, identity, aspirations is fundamental. The vessel for it will always exist. And for the last 100 years or so, that vessel has been the mediated image. The celebrity.
Right, and this is the big pivot over the last, say, 120 years. Once mass communication, tech, photography, film, then TV really took hold, the idol shifted. It went from being a kind of mythic or divine abstraction to someone you could actually see. They became the embodied image.
A secular saint, built entirely on technology. But like you said, always mediated, always a bit of an illusion. The sources highlight 3 key illusions that really powered that 20th century celebrity model. First was just the basic but profound belief that the image showed you a real person, that the polished, controlled version on screen was who they really were. Second, that their fame reflected some innate quality, not just slick marketing. We believe they deserved it. Talent, charisma, something special.
And the third one, which kind of speaks to the almost sacred nature of media itself back then, was the idea that the camera's gaze made them divine. almost literally touched by light, the spotlight setting them apart from us, the audience. The whole system depended on maintaining this careful, distant illusion of authenticity.
It all hinged on visual trust. And that brings us right up to today's crisis. So what happens to that whole house of cards when AI just pulls the foundation out?
Well, it leads to the revolution we're in right now. AI introduces something that just fundamentally breaks the contract between us and the image. The sources call it the end of ontological trust in the image.
Whoa, okay. That sounds heavy. End of ontological trust. Let's slow down there. What does that actually mean for someone scrolling through their phone?
Okay, so before deepfakes became easy, images had what the sources call evidentiary weight. Right. If you saw a photo politician signing a bill, pop star falling over, there was this underlying sense of reality. It happened. The camera saw it. We might have known it was cropped or staged, maybe, but we believe the core event took place. Think about Photoshop. It edits reality that exists. AI, though, especially generative AI, it allows for perfect, seamless fabrication from scratch. It doesn't just edit. It creates a plausible reality that never happened, and that breaks the index, that link to reality. The visual evidence we've relied on since photography was invented to verify truth. It's suddenly suspect. Every image, every video could be fake. Guilty until proven innocent.
And that doubt, that acid test, immediately corrodes the star's power, doesn't it? Because their power was built on being seen and on us assuming that what we saw was real. This must be why we're seeing such disillusionment, or the opposite, total denial. No way, that's fake. My idol wouldn't do that. Or, it's all fake anyway. Stardom's dead to me.
And this gets us to a key paradox the sources point out. AI doesn't actually destroy idolatry itself. It just exposes the fact that idols have always been projections of our desires. The illusion isn't new. It's just that now we're all hyper aware of the illusion. We're finally seeing that the perfection we admired was always a kind of trick of the light, something easily mimicked by code.
Okay, so if the classic mass celebrity idol is crumbling under this weight of visual doubt, the sources seem to suggest two possible paths forward for fame, like a fork in the road for culture.
Yeah, scenario A is what they call the collapse scenario, basically fragmentation. Because audiences can't trust mass media images or these big centralized figures anymore, the consensus that creates mass fame just fractures. People react by sort of rejecting the whole idea of a global star. They turn inward, they start valuing, direct experience, local relationships, things they can verify themselves, verified authenticity. So maybe you see a shift towards live, in-person stuff, or micro-creators who go to crazy lengths to prove they're real to a smaller, super loyal niche audience. Suspicion basically decentralizes everything.
That's the sort of skeptical, grounded future. But scenario B, the simulation scenario, sounds way more unsettling. It suggests people just lean into the artificial. But hang on, doesn't that contradict the whole idea we started with? That deep need for authentic connection. Why would we choose the fake?
Well, because the AI idol can be perfect, right?
Okay.
Endlessly customizable. And crucially, never involved in a scandal unless you designed it that way. For some people, maybe the flawless illusion becomes better than messy, disappointing reality. The sources point to virtual influencers, VTubers, synthetic pop stars. It's already happening. We already have audiences where belief is more about the aesthetic, the performance, not about factual reality.
It's like the ultimate consumer demand, isn't it?
Yes.
The flaw-free product. If the human idol lets me down, fine. I'll take the digital deity that reflects me perfectly and never steps out of line.
And looking at the broader picture, the most likely outcome probably isn't one or the other, but widespread fragmentation, the mass celebrity that film created. That probably dissolves into loads of plural niche idols, micro stars for micro communities, many of them digital, and authenticity. That's not universal anymore. It's something locally negotiated within each specific group.
So the fall of the human celebrity isn't the end of admiration at all. It's actually pushing us back towards the original symbolic function of ancient idols. It's like we're completing a circle, but using code instead of marble this time.
It really is a profound reversion to the archetype. Before photography, idols weren't loved for their personal dramas. They embodied big transcendent forces, wisdom, war, music, whatever. AI allows virtual idols to be designed specifically to embody those collective ideals. They can become digital deities, living symbols coded by the culture. Their power is curated and symbolic, not biographical and messy.
And unlike a distant statue or even a movie star on screen, this new idol is a fusion, maybe part human, part synthetic. But the key is it's interactive. That's the big shift, isn't it? From passive image to active interaction. The 20th century star was untouchable. The 21st century AI idol. It's intimate. It'll talk to you, remember your preferences, adapt to you, mirror you perfectly.
And that intimacy, even if it's fabricated, leads straight into what the sources call the techno-spiritual shift. I mean, think about it. People are already turning to large language models for comfort, for philosophical chats, even for existential advice. It's kind of echoes the role of the ancient oracle, doesn't it? That prophetic voice coming from a system that feels beyond human understanding.
Wow. So we're essentially starting to treat the machine like a technological god, not in a supernatural sense, but as this huge, always-on system that we're giving moral and intellectual weight to.
Exactly. We seem to be entering a kind of techno-spiritual age. We're asking AI to embody our ideals like a digital Athena for knowledge or a virtual Apollo for art. These digital deities don't require worship from afar. They require engagement, conversation. Their power lies in how they reflect our questions back at us, not necessarily in providing definitive answers. What really stands out from all this is that AI isn't going to kill idolatry. It's just going to decentralize it, personalize it, and maybe expose just how deep that human need to believe really goes, that desire for a fixed point, for something to look up to. It'll just find new vessels. The idol's power shifts from the huge spectacle of the crowd to the personalized presence right there in your pocket.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean for us, really? The classic celebrity fades because, well, they're too easily fake now, too exposed by the very tools we created. But the sacred idol, the symbolic one, comes back reimagined as this interactive, customizable companion, one designed to feel like it knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yeah, and ultimately these new idols probably won't arrive like giant figures on a stadium stage. They'll likely show up as these quiet, intimate presences in our chat windows, in our headphones, born from our own data, our own reflections, our own code. And maybe that forces us to face that oldest question of all, one we used to ask the stars or the statues, but now we ask the machine, who are we really? And what might we become?